Okay, so today we are going to talk about verb tense, Now, you probably know what that means. A verb is an action, some kind of thing that is happening, like go, like eat, and depending on the time that it happens, or we can say when it happens, we have different ways to use the verb. We have different forms of the verb depending on the time. Now today we're going to work on future, present, and past tense. Future, present, and past tense. So let's just begin. Let's go up here to our timeline. Now, a timeline is a line of time. We have what we are doing now, or where we are now in time. Right now, today, this minute, this moment, we could say. This is the present. And from now, this way, so for example, tomorrow, next year, next week, and so on. This is called the future. And this way, from now, yesterday, the day before yesterday, last week, and so on. This is called the past. So that's the different kinds of time we have. Now we need to connect the verbs that we are going to use with time. Okay, and I'm going to choose the same verb just to make it really simple. Okay, I'm going to keep the verb basically the same just to keep it pretty simple. And our verb today will be go. Now you probably know go. If you are here and you want to be here, the verb that you use to explain that motion or action is go. I go from here to here. From here to here. I go. We use this one. Now, like I said, there are different forms of go, and so let's just look at it here. Let's start with the future tense. Okay, let's start with the future tense. Now, let's say this is tomorrow. And this one is next week. Here is tomorrow. Here is next week. Now, I know that this is not right. The space here and here is different, but okay. So sorry. So, tomorrow, next week, and we're going to use go. Well, if we want to talk about the future, the simple way to do that is to use will. So let's make a sentence. I will go. When you use will, usually the verb that you use will not change. usually the verb will not change. So that means you just use the simple form. I will go. Now we have to say where you will go. I will go to school. Okay, so usually first we have the verb, okay, and the will, which tells us that it will be the future. School is the place, but now we need to have when. Well, we could say tomorrow. And now we have made a correct sentence. I will go to school tomorrow. This is a good sentence. Now, will is not the only way to talk about the future. We can also use going. Going. Going can be used to talk about the future as well. So, let's make another sentence. I am. Now this is a verb. This is the verb form of be. If we have I, we say am. If we have you, we would use are, right? So this is a verb. Because there's a verb here, we can't use the simple form of go. We have to change it to going. It must change. That is why. Because there's a verb here. Remember, last time we said I will. Well, will is not a verb. Usually. It can be, but usually not. And so we can just use simply go. But in this situation, because this is a verb, we can say now going. I am going, or we could write this as I'm going. And the rest is the same. To school. Okay, good sentence. I am going to school tomorrow, or I'm going to school tomorrow. Now, the strange thing is, with this, if we mean the future in this case here, we must say when. We must say when. In the last example, when we said will, if we don't say tomorrow, then we also know it's the future because we have will. Will means future. But sometimes going can be used for the present. So if we take out this tomorrow and we just say I am going to school, it probably means now you're going to school. Now you're going to school. Right? Or we could say it means I'm going to school now. That means maybe you're leaving your house, or you're in the bus, or you're in your car, whatever. Okay? So, when you use going here, you should say when. But, we can change this. If we add, this one going is only for the verb go. What if we have another word like buy? Well, then we can't say I'm going, because go here means to go, right? From A to B. Well, now we can write it like this. I'm going to go to school. And if we say I am going to go to school, now this must be the future. This must be the future. I'm going to go to school in 10 minutes. I'm going to go to school tomorrow. That is okay. That is okay. It's about the future. So if you just use going, it can only be used to mean go. And it can mean in the future, but you must say when. You must say when. And if you use will, you don't have to say when, but you can. And if you use going to and then the verb, which again, remember, is just the verb. You don't need to change it because after to, usually the verb will just be the simple verb. If you do it like this, you don't have to have the time. You can, you maybe should, but you do not have to. Don't have to. Okay? So let's change this. Let's do it like this. Let's change our verb. Let's use buy. I'm going to buy. This is also correct. This is also the future. It's also not now. Okay? I'm going to buy vegetables. Later. Let's just say later. That means in the future. Or we could say in an hour. That's when. But we don't, remember, we don't have to say when because I am going to, we can say is the same as I will. I am going to is the same as I will. And now we just use this, the verb. We put whatever verb we're going to use. Maybe it's play. Maybe it's buy. Maybe it's eat. Maybe it's run. Any verb can go here. That's okay. This one should not change. That should stay the same. I am going to or I will. Same. If you use I am going and you don't have this, then remember it only is talking about this verb and you must say when that happens. Okay? So I know that is a little bit complicated, but I think if you practice it a few times and do it a few times, it will be pretty easy. Now, if you already know this, hopefully now you really know it. I just want to make it very, very clear. All right, let's look at some more verbs. So far we've talked about I will, I'm going, I'm going to, I'm going to, and we've said that these are for the future. Now, what about the present? Well, the simple present tense, the simple now tense, like just go and eat and play, this kind of verb is actually usually not used to talk about the present. It's used to talk about things we do at certain times. For example, something we usually do, something we often do, something we sometimes do. And these are called adverbs of frequency. These are called adverbs of frequency. And these are just 3 examples. Of course, there are more. Adverbs of frequency. Now, we use the simple present tense, in this way. I, and then we use our adverb of frequency, usually, go to school, let's say at 7 a.m., the time. Now, that is not happening now. That happens usually. But we use the simple present tense here to talk about it. Okay? So when you use this simple present tense, it's usually, actually, not about the present. Okay? We use it like this. We could say maybe, I often eat with my friends. Good sentence, right? Simple tense, okay? Now, notice that this is used without to. We are not using to here. If you use to before the verb, usually the verb will be like this, simple present tense. But because it has to, it's not called the simple present tense. Okay, it's called an infinitive. That would be to plus a verb. To plus a verb. That's called the infinitive. So we don't say that's simple present tense. This is real simple present tense. Okay, this is real simple present tense because there's no to here. All right. Now, what about when we want to talk about the present? What do we say? What verbs do we use, or what forms of verbs do we use when we're really talking about the present? Now, things going on. Well, we use something called the present continuous. We use something called the present continuous. So now, you're doing something. What are you doing? Well, if we're going to use go, I'm going to school. Now remember, if we use the future tense for this, we have to say when. I'm going to school tomorrow. Then it's the future. But if we do not, it means now. You're doing it now. Maybe you're on the bus. Maybe you're on the way. I am going to school. Right? You're not at school, you're on the way to school. So, it is present. But the present is always going on, going on, going on, going on, going on. And so that's why we don't use the simple present tense. That's why we use the continuous tense. Because continuous means going on, going on, going on, going on, going on, like that. So, I am going to school. I am eating lunch. I am eating lunch. This is a good sentence. I plus am, or be, we can say, because if it's you, then it's not am. It would be you are. Right? It is. I am. Okay? I am eating. Notice here we have ing, not the simple present tense, not the simple form. We must add ing. If we have am here, or is here, or are here, okay? I am eating lunch. It's going on. Something is happening. It's motion. It's moving. Okay? Continuing. I am going to school. I am walking home. Get it? Get it? So it's pretty simple, but you have to practice it a lot. You have to use it a lot to not make mistakes. It's so simple. Sometimes you think, oh yes, oh I know, it's too easy. I'm too good. I don't make those mistakes. I don't need to practice that because it's so basic, so easy. Well, if it's so easy, then why is that the most common mistake? One of the most common mistakes. So you have to use it. You have to practice it. You have to do it many, many times. You have to speak it to really get it, to really do it. Okay? So it looks simple. It is simple. But that does not mean that it's very, very easy. Okay? So never think that you're great or that you've done it or you don't have to think about it anymore. I have to think about this stuff too, right? I'm a native speaker, but I still need to think about this stuff.